When you hear the word Armageddon, what comes to mind? You probably think of the ultimate world-ending battle, right? But what if that's only half the story? Today, we're going to dive into one specific theological interpretation from the book of Revelation. And according to this view, there isn't just one final war, there are two, and they're very, very different.
Okay, so let's lay out the sequence of events here. We're going to look at the two big prophesied wars, the rise of this figure called the Beast, the super dramatic second coming, Armageddon itself, and then what comes after? A brand new kingdom right here on Earth.
All right, so the whole argument here really kicks off with one big, crucial distinction. This interpretation says that a lot of people accidentally blend two separate prophesied conflicts into one single event, when they're actually sequential and have totally different purposes.
And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, the main question this interpretation wants to answer. Is that huge global war we might call World War III the same thing as the Battle of Armageddon you read about in the Bible?
And the answer, according to this source, is a hard no. They're seen as two completely separate events. One is really just setting the stage for the other. Think of it this way. One is a war of nations against nations, and the other, that's a war of earth against heaven.
So this is where that distinction becomes absolutely critical. The first war, it's a devastating global nuclear conflict, all human. It's said to happen during a 7-year period of terrible suffering called the tribulation. And the outcome is total chaos, which is what allows a single world leader to rise to power. But the second war, Armageddon, is something else entirely. It happens at the very, very end, and it isn't a human conflict at all. It's a divine one, and it leads to a completely new world order.
So let's talk about what happens after that first global war, and how it all builds towards that final conflict. You see, this interpretation argues that the first war isn't the end. It's just the catalyst for the final act.
Just try to imagine it. A world just torn apart by unimaginable destruction. And into this desperate landscape steps this incredibly charismatic figure, promising to unite all of humanity under one world government and finally end all war. He's the savior everyone has been waiting for, or so it seems.
And this is where two key players step onto the world stage. The political leader is called the Beast. You know him as the Antichrist. And he's backed up by this powerful religious figure, the false prophet, who performs what look like actual miracles to make people believe in the Beast's rule. Together, they grab global power, and eventually they gather all the world's armies for one last stand.
So just as it looks like this new world order is completely triumphant, the whole story takes a dramatic turn. The focus shifts from what's happening on Earth to a direct intervention from heaven. This is what's known as the second coming of Jesus Christ.
The text paints this just absolutely stunning scene, an image of cosmic power. Just listen to this. I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and makes war.
This is such a pivotal moment. According to this view, the return of Jesus is a complete 180 from his first appearance. He isn't the humble servant from the Gospels. Nope. This time, he's a conquering king, coming back to execute judgment and claim his rightful authority over the whole earth.
And he's not coming alone. The source is really specific that he returns with a heavenly army. But get this, the army isn't made up of angels. It's described as the called, chosen, and faithful. These are the saints and martyrs, now returning with him on white horses, ready to take part in the final judgment.
So, this sets the stage for that second prophesied war, Armageddon. You have the armies of the world all united under the Beast, gathered in one spot, and you have the army of heaven descending to meet them, the ultimate confrontation.
But here's the part that might really surprise you. This source describes this not as some long, drawn-out war, but as a swift, decisive judgment. There's no real battle. The leaders of the rebellion, the Beast and the false prophet, are captured almost instantly. They're judged on the spot and removed, which brings a very decisive end to their reign.
But wait, the end of the battle is not the end of the story. According to this interpretation, it's actually the beginning of a completely new age for the world, one that's defined by a totally different kind of rule. This new era is called the Millennial Kingdom, a literal 1,000-year reign of Christ right here on Earth. I mean, can you imagine a world where peace and justice aren't just things we hope for, but they're the actual foundation of society? A new government led by a divine ruler, bringing in an age of harmony that lasts for a millennium?
And to describe the start of this divine rule, The text uses this really powerful metaphor, the wedding of the Lamb. It's meant to symbolize the perfect, ultimate union between the ruler and his people, kicking off this long-awaited new kingdom on earth.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. This whole narrative frames the end not as just total annihilation, but as a really violent and dramatic transition. It suggests that the end of one age is just what has to happen before the beginning of the next, which raises a pretty big question. Is the prophesied end all about destruction, or is it really about a radical renewal?